When your attention disappears, her true feelings surface. A woman notices the silence before anything else. Her response, whether she reaches out, pulls away, or stays indifferent, reveals the depth of her interest. Distance creates clarity. Your absence becomes the mirror that shows what your presence couldn't. Your absence reveals her true level of interest in a way your presence never could. When you are consistently available, she doesn't have to question anything. Your attention becomes a given, a constant she can rely on without evaluating her own feelings. But the moment you step back even slightly, everything changes. A woman becomes acutely aware of the space you once filled. It's in that space that her genuine interest, her curiosity, and her emotional investment begin to show. Absence has a way of stripping away illusions. When you aren't there to initiate the conversations, to check in, to guide the connection forward, she is left alone with her own thoughts. That's when her real feelings surface. Does she wonder where you went? Does she feel your silence? Does she reach toward you with the same consistency you once reached toward her? Or does she fade into that silence as if nothing has changed? Her reaction is the answer you were always searching for but could never see clearly while you were present. When a woman is truly interested, your absence does not go unnoticed. It signals something in her, an emotional shift she can't ignore. She starts to evaluate why your energy feels missing. She may initiate contact, check on you, or match the interest she now realizes she was receiving. She makes an effort because she values the connection, and effort is the strongest indicator of interest. She doesn't let distance grow without addressing it because she fears losing what matters to her. But when a woman is not deeply invested, your absence exposes that too. She doesn't question it, doesn't worry, doesn't reach out. She simply lets the space widen because she was never emotionally anchored. She might enjoy the attention you gave, but she was never willing to contribute to the bond. Your silence becomes liberation for her, not loss. And that truth saves you from wasting time on someone whose heart was never aligned with yours. Absence also reveals whether she valued the attention or merely accepted it. Some women appreciate presence only when it is effortless and freely given, but distance forces them to confront a reality where they must choose, initiate, and put effort into what they want. Many won't, some will, and that difference is powerful. Your absence is not a game or manipulation. It's clarity. It resets the imbalance created when one person gives more than the other. It gives her the space to show her intentions without being influenced by your consistency. It tests whether the connection stands on its own or only stands because you were holding it up. When your attention disappears, the truth appears. Not because you forced it, but because silence always reveals what presence hides. A woman may hide her indifference when your attention is constant, but she cannot hide her interest when your attention fades. Her actions in your absence speak the language her words never did. A woman feels the shift instantly when you pull back emotionally, even if you don't say a single word. Women are naturally intuitive, deeply attuned to emotional energy, and highly sensitive to changes in connection. She doesn't need an announcement, an explanation, or a confrontation to recognize something is different. Your silence, your tone, your delay, your distance all speak louder than any conversation ever could. A woman can sense when the emotional climate between you shifts the same way she can sense changing weather. It's not dramatic, it's instinctive. When you pull back emotionally, even slightly, she feels the absence of your warmth. She notices the missing enthusiasm in your responses, the lack of curiosity, the shorter messages, the quieter presence. She feels when you no longer lean into the connection the way you once did. She feels when your energy is no longer reaching for hers. And this shift activates something deep within her, either her fear, her desire, or her indifference. If she genuinely cares for you, the emotional distance unsettles her. She becomes alert, aware, and responsive. She may try to check in, initiate more, or understand what changed. She may ask herself questions she never had to ask before. Is he losing interest? Did I do something wrong? Why does his energy feel different? Your emotional pullback forces her to evaluate her own attachment, her own desire, and her own effort. It makes her realize the role you played in her emotional world, a role she may have taken lightly until it felt less certain. When she is invested, the shift creates urgency within her. She begins to lean in more, not because of fear alone, but because she values the connection and does not want it to slip away. She becomes more intentional with her words, more present in her responses, more open in her emotions. Your distance awakens her emotional awareness. But if she is not truly attached, if her interest was shallow or based on convenience, she will feel the shift yet choose not to respond to it. She won't question the distance because she doesn't fear losing you. She won't reach out because she never felt deeply anchored. She simply mirrors the space you've created, allowing the connection to fade without resistance. Her lack of response is still a response. It reveals the truth of her emotional investment. Women feel emotional changes faster than men express them. They are wired to pick up on subtleties, to feel the gaps, to sense the unspoken. So when you pull back, she doesn't wait for explanations. Her body, her intuition, her subconscious knows before her mind even processes it. She feels the shift at the level of energy. Your emotional pullback becomes the test she didn't expect, but one she instantly reacts to. Her reaction, whether she moves closer, pulls away, or stays unaffected, exposes exactly where her heart stands. Your absence of emotion reveals her depth of emotion. In that moment, she feels everything you stopped saying. Distance creates clarity, both for you and for her, because space has a way of exposing truths that closeness often blurs. When you are constantly present, consistently available, or emotionally invested, it's easy for feelings to get confused with routine, comfort, or habit. But the moment distance enters the picture, everything becomes sharper. What was once overlooked becomes visible. What was once taken for granted becomes noticeable. What was once uncertain becomes undeniable. For you, distance is often the first moment you truly see the relationship without emotion clouding your judgment. When you're close, you may be driven by desire, attachment, or the hope of what things could be. But when you pull back, even slightly, the fog lifts. You begin to see whether she was meeting your energy, whether the effort was mutual, and whether the connection was real or imagined. Distance gives you the space to observe her behavior instead of compensating for it. You notice who she becomes when you're not initiating, when you're not giving, when you're not pouring into her, and this reveals everything. If she's genuinely interested, distance will inspire her to step forward. She won't let silence stretch too long. She won't allow the connection to fade without trying. She will feel your absence in a way that pushes her to reach out, to check in, to re-engage emotionally. Her actions show that she values you, not just your attention. But if she's indifferent, distance will expose that too. You will see the truth in her lack of response. She won't chase. She won't question. She won't try to close the gap. Instead, she will settle into the silence as if nothing has changed. That clarity prevents you from investing in someone who was never emotionally aligned with you. For her, distance forces a different kind of clarity. When your presence is consistent, she may not fully process how it makes her feel. She may enjoy the attention but not appreciate the effort. She may feel comfortable but not committed. But the moment you step back, she must confront her own emotions. She begins to ask herself whether she misses you, whether she values the connection, whether she wants to rebuild what is fading. If she feels your absence deeply, it becomes a wake-up call. She becomes aware of the emotional role you played in her life, one she may have underestimated. She sees the difference between having access to you and losing that access. That clarity is powerful because it tells her the truth about her own heart. Distance also prevents both people from assuming. When you're close, assumptions grow. When you step back, clarity grows. You both get to see whether the relationship stands on its own or only stands because one person was holding it together. In the end, distance doesn't destroy connections. It reveals which connections were strong enough to survive without constant reinforcement. It gives you truth without forcing it, answers without confrontation, and clarity without conflict. Her reaction reflects her attachment style, not your worth. And this is one of the most liberating truths you can understand. When you pull back, when your attention softens, when you create space, her behavior in that moment is shaped far more by her emotional wiring than by anything you did or didn't do. People respond from their patterns, not from your value. And a woman's attachment style becomes most visible when she feels a shift, because emotional distance pulls her true instincts to the surface. Some women have an anxious attachment style. When they feel you withdrawing even slightly, it triggers fear within them. Fear of abandonment, fear of being replaced, fear of losing the connection. Their reaction might seem intense or emotional, but it's not about you being unworthy or doing something wrong. It's an internal alarm that goes off inside them, built long before you ever entered their life. She might chase, overthink, or try to close the gap quickly because the distance activates her insecurities. Her response is rooted in her emotional history, not a reflection of your value. Other women lean toward avoidant attachment. Their instinct is the opposite. When they sense you pulling away, they detach even more. Not because they don't care, but because closeness itself makes them uncomfortable. They feel safer with emotional space, so your distance feels natural to them. They won't pursue, they won't panic, they won't question, because the distance aligns with the way they protect themselves emotionally. Again, this says nothing about your worth. It's simply a defense mechanism they learned long before you. Then there are securely attached women. When they feel the shift, they respond with clarity, communication, and calmness. They don't become anxious. They don't run away. They simply assess the situation and address it directly. They value connection, but they don't fear its loss. They respect your boundaries without internalizing them as rejection. Their reaction comes from emotional maturity, not insecurity, and this often creates the healthiest dynamic. But even then, her behavior reflects her internal foundation, not a judgment of your value. The point is simple. A woman's reaction to your distance is about her emotional blueprint. It's shaped by her past relationships, her childhood experiences, her fears, her coping mechanisms, and her comfort levels with intimacy. None of that defines your worth as a man. None of that diminishes your value. None of that makes you more or less desirable. People respond according to the emotional tools they have, not the person in front of them. So when she pulls closer, pulls away, or stays neutral, don't take it personally. Don't assume her reaction means you are lacking something. Don't attach your self-esteem to her behavior. See her reaction for what it truly is: information. A window into how she connects, how she loves, how she handles vulnerability. Pulling back exposes whether the connection was genuine or convenience-based, because distance forces the truth to rise to the surface. When you're always available, always attentive, always present, it's easy for someone to enjoy the benefits of your energy without ever revealing their true intentions. Your consistency can hide her inconsistency. Your effort can disguise her lack of investment. Your presence can create the illusion of a connection that only exists because you're the one feeding it. But the moment you pull back, even slightly, everything becomes clear. When you stop initiating every conversation, when you stop being the emotional anchor, when you stop carrying the weight of the connection alone, you give her a chance to show her role in it. And this is where the truth emerges without you having to ask a single question. If the connection was genuine, she will feel the shift and respond with intention. She will reach out, check on you, ask how you're doing, or take steps to close the emotional distance. She won't allow the connection to fade quietly because it holds value for her. A woman who sees potential with you won't let silence grow without making an effort to reconnect. Her initiative reveals her sincerity. Her consistency reveals her emotional investment. Her actions show that it wasn't just your presence holding things together. She was contributing too. Genuine connections thrive even when things get quiet. They survive emotional pauses because both people are present emotionally, not just one. Pulling back simply reveals the strength she already carried for the connection. But if the connection was convenience-based, your distance exposes that too. She will not try to reach out because she was never truly invested. She simply enjoyed your presence when it required nothing from her. She liked the attention, the validation, the comfort, but she wasn't prepared to give anything back. Your pullback is not a loss for her. It's the removal of a benefit she never intended to reciprocate. Convenience-based connections collapse the moment you stop pouring into them. They rely on your initiative, your effort, your emotional generosity. Once that stops, the illusion ends. Her silence becomes your answer. Her indifference becomes your clarity. Her absence of effort reveals that she was more connected to what she received than to who you are. Pulling back also reveals whether she is emotionally ready for a relationship or simply filling space in her life. Some women enjoy companionship without commitment, connection without depth, conversation without intention. Distance exposes these patterns instantly. A woman who wants something real steps forward. A woman who doesn't step back. And the beauty of pulling back is that it requires no confrontation, no accusations, no emotional drama. You simply create space, and the truth fills it. You learn more from her behavior in silence than you ever could from her words in closeness. Pulling back is not a game. It's a revelation. It shows you whether you were building a connection together or building it alone. It reveals whether she valued you or just your attention. It frees you from guessing and gives you clarity without confusion. Your silence tests her emotional investment more than your words ever could, because silence removes all the noise, all the assumptions, and all the comfort she relied on. When you're speaking, reassuring, explaining, or constantly putting effort into the connection, she doesn't have to question anything. Your words keep the bond alive even when her actions don't. But when you become silent, even for a short moment, the entire dynamic shifts. Silence exposes the gap between what she says and what she's actually willing to do. Silence is powerful because it puts the responsibility on her side of the connection. It forces her to step into the space you once filled. When you stop initiating, she must decide whether the connection matters enough to maintain. When you stop pouring energy into her, she must choose whether she's willing to pour any of hers into you. And her reaction in that quiet moment reveals everything. Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting her true investment. When a woman cares, she notices silence immediately. She feels the lack of your presence, your attention, your warmth. She doesn't ignore it. Instead, she becomes curious, concerned, or more attentive. She tries to understand what changed. She reaches out to check on you. She puts in effort to keep the connection alive. And she shows through her actions that the relationship wasn't dependent solely on your voice. She values you enough to respond to your silence with initiative. But when a woman was never truly invested, silence exposes that emptiness quickly. She doesn't reach out. She doesn't follow up. She doesn't try to understand why things slowed down. Your silence becomes an open door she never walks through, not because you aren't worthy of her attention, but because she was never emotionally anchored in the first place. Her lack of response is not rejection, it's revelation. It shows you her real level of interest without sugarcoating, without mixed signals, without confusion. Your silence also protects you. It prevents you from carrying a connection entirely on your own. It stops you from giving energy to someone who gives none back. It allows you to see whether she was matching your investment or simply benefiting from it. Words can hide a lot. Politeness, convenience, temporary excitement. Silence hides nothing. It strips away the surface and reveals her true intentions. Silence also eliminates the influence of your effort. When you speak, you guide the connection. When you stay silent, she must guide it. When you speak, you make the relationship easy for her. When you stay silent, she has to show whether she actually wants it. Your silence is not punishment, it's clarity. It gives her the space to choose you without pressure, without persuasion, without your constant presence making the decision for her. A woman who truly values you will hear your silence louder than any words you've ever spoken. A woman who doesn't will fade into it. When your attention fades, her behavior becomes the truth you couldn't see before, because attention has a way of blurring the reality of a connection. When you are fully present, when you give generously, when you show consistent interest, you often cover the gaps in her effort without realizing it. Your presence fills the silence. Your energy fills the distance. Your consistency hides her inconsistency. But when your attention fades, even slightly, the entire dynamic reveals itself with painful clarity. Attention is powerful because it creates comfort. It makes her feel desired, valued, seen. And sometimes that comfort makes her complacent. She doesn't question her own effort as long as she feels your effort. She doesn't evaluate her feelings as long as she knows you're emotionally invested. But when that attention fades, she no longer has your energy to lean on. She has to step into the space you've created. Her behavior becomes the truth, not her promises, not her potential, not your hopes, her behavior. If she was genuinely interested, your fading attention triggers her awareness. She notices the difference immediately. She feels the shift in the way you communicate, the way you show up, the way your presence feels slightly distant. And instead of panicking, ignoring it, or walking away, she leans in. She becomes more intentional. She reaches out. She asks questions. She tries to reconnect because the connection matters to her. Her effort reveals her sincerity. But if she was only attached to the attention, not to you, your fading presence exposes it instantly. She doesn't chase. She doesn't question. She doesn't attempt to rebuild what's slipping away. She simply lets the distance widen because her investment was never emotional. It was situational. She enjoyed the validation, the certainty, the comfort, but she wasn't ready to put in effort of her own. When the attention disappears, so does she. This is why fading attention is such a powerful filter. It separates genuine connection from superficial attachment. It shows you whether she was emotionally engaged or just entertained by your presence. It reveals whether she cared about the relationship or simply enjoyed what the relationship provided. And the truth is, you often cannot see these differences when you're fully invested. When you care deeply, you project. You assume, you fill the gaps with your own intentions. But when you pull back, when you let the energy settle, the truth stands alone, untouched by your effort. Or does she vanish into the silence you did not expect? Your fading attention becomes the test she didn't know she was taking, but one she answers honestly through her actions, not her words. In the end, when your attention fades, you stop seeing the version of her your emotions created and start seeing the version of her reality reveals. And that truth, however quiet, changes everything. A woman values attention she had to earn, not attention handed to her freely, because effort is the foundation of emotional value. When something comes easily, it is often overlooked. When attention is given without boundaries, without standards, without requiring her participation, it begins to feel ordinary, even disposable. But when a woman has to meet you halfway, when she has to contribute emotionally, when she has to show up with intention, the connection becomes something she respects, not something she simply enjoys in the moment. Free attention feels good, but it rarely feels meaningful. It feels flattering, but it doesn't create emotional responsibility. She can take it today, ignore it tomorrow, and return to it when bored, because she never had to invest anything to receive it. And what requires no investment usually creates no loyalty. A woman may appreciate the consistency, but she won't value it in the way she values something she actively worked for. But attention she earns is different. It's attention that comes with standards, boundaries, and mutual effort. It's attention you don't give automatically. It's attention you give intentionally. This kind of attention awakens her deeper instincts, emotional engagement, curiosity, respect, and desire. When she knows your attention isn't granted to every woman, when she recognizes that it is tied to effort and compatibility, she rises to that standard. She becomes more present, more aware, more invested. Women don't value attention, they value significance. And significance comes from knowing your presence in her life wasn't given lightly. She admires the man who doesn't offer his energy to anyone who asks for it. She respects the man who chooses carefully, who protects his emotional space, who doesn't chase validation or give his time without purpose. Attention from a man like that is meaningful because it must be earned. And earning your attention doesn't mean playing games or withholding affection. It simply means allowing her to invest too, letting her show interest, effort, and emotional presence, letting her contribute to the connection instead of carrying it alone. When she has to meet your energy rather than just receive it, the relationship becomes balanced. She builds emotional equity in it. And what she invests in emotionally, she protects. This is why relationships built on mutual effort feel stronger. When she earns your attention through consistency, emotional honesty, kindness, respect, or shared values, the bond becomes real, not one-sided. She feels proud of the connection. She cherishes it because she participated in creating it. When attention is handed out freely, she instinctively questions its authenticity. She wonders if you offer the same energy to others. She doubts the depth behind it. But when your attention is selective, when it aligns with her behavior and not just her presence, she understands its value. She knows it means something, and she treats it with care. A woman doesn't fall for attention. She falls for the meaning behind it. And attention that required her to show up, invest, and reciprocate will always feel far more meaningful than attention that arrived without effort. When your attention shifts, every truth that was hidden beneath comfort rises to the surface. Her reactions, her silence, her effort, and her absence all reveal what your presence could not. Distance shows who values you, not just who enjoys you. Silence exposes emotional investment, not emotional excuses. And the way she responds when you pull back reflects her attachment style, not your worth. A woman who is genuinely interested will lean in when you step back. She will match your energy, protect the connection, and show through her actions that you matter. But a woman who was only entertained by your presence will disappear into the emptiness your attention once filled. That truth is painful, but it's freeing. This entire journey teaches one powerful lesson. The right woman answers your distance with clarity, not confusion. She responds with effort, not excuses. And she values the attention she earns, not the attention she simply receives. In the end, your pullback isn't a test for her. It's a revelation for you, a chance to see the connection for what it is, not what you hoped it would be, a chance to finally give your energy to someone who values it, reciprocates it, and respects it.